Leadership. A commodity in high demand but short supply in today's volatile and uncertain world.
Organizations need to ask themselves, why don't we have enough people who want to lead?
I mean, you're micromanaging everything, essentially.
But who makes for a good leader, or a strong leader for that matter?
They were very aware that this was a man that they wanted to please all the time because they respected him.
Who do we identify as leaders?
The goal of many leaders is to command the most presence in any room they step into.
Does success in any outfit or organization lie firmly on the shoulders of an all-powerful leader, or does it depend on the collective genius of the team?
Teams of people will outperform individuals all day long.
A guide to leaders and leadership for today. Humans are naturally drawn to strong leaders, a trait rooted in our evolutionary past. Our primitive instincts favor those who exhibit strength, confidence, and charisma, qualities that once ensured our survival. Throughout history, legendary figures and modern leaders alike have embodied these traits. In the lush landscapes of Borneo, one traditional community boasts a long lineage of strong leaders. Apai Janggot is chief of the Iban tribe of Sungai Utek in Indonesia's West Kalimantan province. In the old days, chiefs led battles, defending the community's pride. Heads of enemies were taken as trophies of war. These days, chiefs like Apai play roles that are considerably more subdued.
Ini tugas tuan rumah beladang. Itu semuanya pegawai. Dan itu menanam, kita yang mengaturkan mereka. Semua tugas-tugas itu budaya apa kita. Karena ini lingkungan ini kita yang bertanggung jawab penuh di wilayah sungai itu. Kalau misalnya berhadapan dengan pengusaha itu pun kita yang maju. Yang lain kan ikut belakang. Itu kalau orang kita ngadap orang tak bisa. Megang senjata apa-apa tak bisa. Kita pegang itu senjata pelupin.
Apai's role as Tua Rumah, or head of the longhouse, revolves around protecting the livelihoods of his fellow villagers.
Babang kita tu tadi, ya abak pikir kita serumah tu tadi. Gak kita tu tadi ngenan ke benua, ngenan ke tanah, ngenan ke air.
He enforces rules and customs, guided by fairness and compassion.
Karena kita sudah atur. Beladang pun, kalau ini kita beladang di tempat orang, dia meminjam. Kalau dia sudah minjam, nanti dikembalikan. Kalau orang makan, barang itu di pohon, itu tidak ada hukum adat. Kecuali di pohon di bawah. Itu baru ada sanksinya. Dia kan tuduh, bisa juga tuduh mencuri, ngambil barang orang, begitu. Kita lihat mana keadaan. Kalau orang ini haus, masak orang ini. Kalau orang ini lapar, masak orang tak bisa makan. Itu aturan kalau di Sungai itu begitu.
Memang makna pemimpin itu sebenarnya mungkin biasanya ya, kalau secara komparatif dimanapun di dunia, pemimpin pertama memang akan dinilai pertama memang dari akumulasi pengetahuan yang dia punya. Gitu ya. Artinya modal yang dia pakai bukan hanya untuk memimpin gitu ya atau leading, tapi juga dia juga harus mencari solusi. Artinya untuk solusi dia harus punya bukan hanya knowledge gitu ya, bukan hanya pengetahuan, tapi juga kemampuan bernegosiasi, kemampuan melakukan translasi antara komunitasnya dengan pihak luar dan untuk di dalam komunitasnya sendiri. Artinya dia harus berlaku adil.
The tribe's customs extend to its leadership choices. Apai inherited his position from his father, But leadership among the tribe is not strictly determined by lineage.
Ketika ada satu pemimpin yang mungkin sudah mau pensiun atau turun, mereka akan kemudian memilih siapa yang memiliki mungkin tingkat pengetahuan yang sama dengan pemimpin sebelumnya, memiliki pengetahuan tentang ritual, pengetahuan tentang sejarah, pengetahuan tentang bagaimana bernegosiasi dengan kelompok-kelompok yang bertetangga. Berarti kata, setiap orang punya kemampuan sebenarnya untuk menjadi pemimpin.
In battle, the Iban leader is feared and respected, but he must also embody empathy.
Ngomong bahasa orang Iban, gagah hati. Kebersamaan itu persatuan. Mau ke pemerintah, mau ke orang lain, mau ke negara lain, mau ke Indonesia, mau ke negara yang Malaysia. Itu kita ngomong itu kan baik-baik, itu kan umum manusia. Kita itu udah jadi teman, udah jadi kawan, udah jadi bersaudara. Kita ini kalau kita nak memikir, itu jangan dibuang orang itu. Kita rangkulkan, pelukkan, biar kita ini bisa diskusi bersama, ngomong bersama, berikan bersama.
In leadership discussions, Apai Janggut is an alpha, that particular individual who stands out for his assertiveness and dominance. One would imagine alphas to be the bossiest and loudest person around. Not so in the case of Apai. And certainly not in the animal kingdom, where the term alpha originates.
The name originated in the animal kingdom because the alpha was looking after the herd. The alpha was paying attention to the welfare of all of the other people, all of the other animals. And that's when I think of an alpha, I think of someone who is attending to the collective. I developed 4 categories of alphas based on some research I did with the support of the Harvard Business Review. So there is the commander, they're a leader, they have a sort of a commanding, charismatic appearance and style. A second style is the alpha visionary. They can be quite introverted, but they have the ability to think far out in the future and envision the future as if it has happened. The alpha strategist is very mental and very intellectual. They are very good at sequentially thinking through things down a pretty long-term future. The alpha executor are incredibly good at getting things to happen. So they understand how to create accountability, how to hold people accountable in a positive way. Many alphas have very high emotional intelligence and they're quite empathetic and intuitive. So a healthy alpha likes creating the collective and likes bringing people together and surfacing ideas. They're very good at recognizing who to listen to and who will be able to best solve a particular problem.
It's one thing being an alpha. It's another having others identify you as one. Lauren Rothman calls herself a style strategist.
Because whether you're managing people of a different gender or of different stages, whether some are older or younger, we can't really tell too much about you except that you have a sense of leadership and presence, and therefore I want to listen.
She names 2 things that convey leadership strength: image and mindset.
I have identified a micro step in your mindset that you must make before you get dressed in order to have great style, executive presence, and personal power. That micro step is integral, and the goal of many leaders is not to land on a best dressed list. However, it is to command the most presence in any room they step into. You have to spend 5 seconds before you get dressed saying, I deserve to be here, I have carefully and intentionally chosen the clothing that is going to send the signals that I intend to send. I think this would be flattering for you. So you have a few different
There is
kind of
science
choices.
to
that you
Rothman's
could be
ideas
making.
about presence. A study in 2010 called Power Posing revealed what happens when a person performs two specific one-minute poses to an audience. By striking those poses, the person feels more powerful and is perceived as more competent. And that can inspire people to accept them as a leader.
If you're a leader, when you walk in to the room, when you stand behind the podium, when you are in a debate, when you take power, how you own that has so much to do with the signals your clothing and your presence are sending. Because most likely, you haven't said a word yet. So all we can have a relationship with is the impact of the signals that you're sending.
Pingtung County lies nestled in the mountainous valleys of southern Taiwan. 15 years ago, in August 2009, Pingtung is struck by the most treacherous of typhoons. Typhoon Morakot destroys homes, roads, and everything in its path. The Jiamu tribe, residents of the county, are left stranded. Over 100 lives hang in the balance. Lai Mingchuan and a few brave colleagues step forward.
看到这个雨好像跟平常的雨量不一样。我说这个雨怎么下的像那个瀑布一样？当我起来的时候，好像这个从我家里远远的就可以听到高屏溪的水声了。我说我住屏东市，水声我竟然可以听得到，我就马上开车到高屏大桥。我说哇！ 那个水几乎是已经快满了，很震撼，很震撼。就是觉得哇，怎么办啊？我们里面还那么多族人，我们也不知道里面到底怎么样了。
Lai and his crew heli-rappel to the village. They assemble the residents at the village center. Moments later, a massive landslide strikes, burying several homes.
这边这一块是受水最 严重的地方，那边有8户人家，整个被土石流冲下来。垂降之后，我们就直接开始分配任务嘛，然后再看看这里，计算这里有多少人。大部分有一些在这里的学校，就是我后方这里的那个国小，然后有一些是在我前方的那个活动中心。其实当下就是只想一心为族人。 做一点事情，就是让他们赶快撤离这里。所以当下我们真的只有绳索了，然后就是吊带了，挂钩，就这样。我们一下来，他们当然很高兴啊，说：“哎，我们来了，有救了，有救了。”这样。那但是因为我们也不敢讲说外界有多严重，因为让他们怕他们更担心。
Lai and his team evacuate villages and mobilize relief services at a temporary shelter.
我们终于把大家全部的族人没有一个人伤亡，然后安全的到达安置所，就觉得哦，那种感觉就是说任务完成了，大家都得救了这样。然后我们一到那个内埔农宫那边，其实族人知道我们要下来，他们全部人在等我们了，所以我们一下直升机，他们看到我们就感动一直，所以就开始英雄，大家就我们也很莫名其妙，什么时候就变英雄了这样。
Lai's quick thinking under pressure is exceptional, and his actions reveal something deeper about leadership. For centuries, people have believed that great leaders possess unique, innate qualities that set them apart. This idea, known as the great man theory, dates back to the 19th century and has since shaped our view of leadership. Words used to describe a great man are inspired, brave, sincere, and earnest. Lai doesn't claim credit for the successful Jiamu rescue, nor identify himself as a great man. But his teammates, who along with Lai have come to be known as the 4 heroes of Jiamu, regard him as a first among equals.
我觉得就是这应该是从小的观念跟从小的一个环境啊。那当然后面加入特搜是最基本是他自己原本的母部落给他的一个养分，他持续为部落或是为国家贡献，那也能够提拔一些我们部落的这些年轻的子弟兵能够加入这个消防跟救灾的行列。
小赖哈。 是我从小的玩伴，他一直都是一个小团队里面的一个，他很喜欢单头啊，就是他很有智慧，很有勇气，甚至于如果说这个圈圈里面有比他大的，都一样，都是由他来做在带领。
今天来一起来教育大家，互相的来了解。我不会觉得我是英雄人物，但是我会觉得我是擅长领导的人。 我想，应该英雄的主义对我来讲说，具备会可以影响他人，然后可以正面，就是影响把人走正面的思考的方向。我觉得积极乐观，然后影响他人，就是有影响力的人啊。然后做事情就是自我比较可以承担，就是要正向啊，然后影响他人哦，就是碰到任何事情，就是一定先会往 好的方面去想，我觉得真正的英雄是不需要被认可的。但是如果以一般的角度，他们绝对会觉得这是要人去认可。那自己知道自己在做什么，像我平常在做任何，因为我几乎每个月有时候1个月好几次去救灾去做什么，很多人都会写明信片啊，或不是打电话说要帮助我什么什么什么，我都说。 那个是我该做的，那个不需要，要当面要跟我道谢的，我都会去解掉，因为我觉得那个本身就是我喜欢做的事情。我觉得没有人是天生下来就会是英雄啊，一定是不断的学习，在错误中导正，然后慢慢的往自己的想法去前进。
If there was ever a football manager worthy of the title hero, it would undeniably be Sir Alex Ferguson. His influence on the game is unmatched, defined by a commanding presence that left an indelible mark on football history.
He was a father figure who was very, very disciplined. So he would shout and scream and set his expectancies on these players. But once he had rollicked a player, he would make sure that his arm would go around them the next day. They were very aware that this was a man that they wanted to please all the time because they respected him, but they were also in fear of letting him down.
I think they're showing signs of being a really good team, but they've got to win the league. They've got to win the European Cup, they've got to win an FA Cup. They've got to win these things. It's the only way we can be judged as being a great team. And it's the point in thinking you're going to be a good second, that doesn't come into it.
From the 80s and 90s into the noughties, when he realised that shouting and screaming at these players would no longer work, he became a bit of an enigma around the training ground. So rather than be hands-on with the training, Sir Alex had a window that he might look out of every now and then to observe the training. So even though he evolved, his manner of trying to tread the line between fear and respect was a mainstay throughout his 40 years as a manager.
They're not going to be easy games for Arsenal, Chelsea either. They're difficult games. There's nothing between the teams. But we're going to try and win them.
Sir Alex Ferguson knew how to keep his players close, how to earn their loyalty. It was his team, driven by his vision. When Ferguson stepped down in 2013, the legacy he left behind was a larger-than-life pair of boots to fill. His final season delivered their last league title, and since then, Manchester United has been chasing that elusive second win.
When Manchester United chopped and changed managers, it seems to have a detrimental effect on performance. It's actually at the back end of Alex Ferguson's career where he had the most success In his last 7 years, he'd won 5 league titles, competed for all 7, and only lost by a total of 1 point. Alex Ferguson's time at Manchester United really was about the dictator controlling the collective. Now, modern football teams have taken a leaf out of the All Blacks' books, whereas they feel that the manager is the conductor of the football team, but not the controller of everything that happens on the football pitch.
"20 years ago, the New Zealand All Blacks transformed their approach, a shift that redefined not only the game, but their entire pursuit of success as a united team.
The team became team-driven rather than coach-driven, but you have to have a skeleton to do that. And that skeleton was about, why are we here? And the why really was to try and be the best rugby team in the world. And while I was there, it became trying to be the best sporting team in the world. And that sounds very arrogant, but that was achieved.
The All Blacks continue to dominate the sport. They've maintained one of the highest winning percentages in rugby history, winning over 76% of their matches.
A team sport being rugby, where you have 15 players on the field at a time, plus coaches, you need to be able to have guys in different positions that can make decisions on the field. I'm in the forwards as captain. I can't make those decisions. Players would in the back line, so to have leaders in the back line and guys supporting me makes my job easier, and it's a collective approach versus, I guess, a hierarchical leadership style. I certainly think a collaborative approach in terms of leadership, not only in team sports but in business, certainly has its merit, where I guess a CEO puts faith and trust in management to make their own decisions. They're closer to, I guess, the operations, so they sort of know what's going on within the business. Same in a team.
I think it's important anytime you have a team that's got so much history, so much tradition, so much success, you have to protect the traditions that are sacred. All businesses have to evolve, all people and individuals have to evolve, and how you do that is having really good feedback loops and good professional development, so you need to be open.
How would I define collective leadership? I think anything important that gets done is always done by a collection of people. So I think of leadership as never being a singular activity, but really how do we bring together the people we need to bring together to get done whatever we hope to. So leading change is about saying to people, I have a vision, follow me to the future. Leading innovation is about saying, let me create an environment in which you will be willing and able to co-create the future with me. If you want to do that, what you need to focus on is how can I make sure that people will be willing to co-create together.
Pixar's process in creating some of the most successful animated films ever made is guided by a mantra of openness.
I see it as my job as the leader to bring out the best in everybody that's working for me, and I know that each one of them has some slice of genius in them, and my job is to bring that out. And the idea is that you have all these people working together like the Borg Collective that are collaborating together, and they can produce more than they can individually produce. So traditional leaders are focused on causing people to execute, to get the job done, to meet performance goals, to minimize differences, to have a not noisy company of complainers, right? But that is what you had to do in companies of 30 years ago, but I don't think that's sufficient today. I think you have to do that, and you have to think about what you could be doing. And in order to look at what you could be doing, you have to be amplifying differences. You have to create an environment that brings out the best in everyone.
The platform to create such an environment is a brain trust meeting.
Let's say you're a year into the film. How can we verify that we're on track? Why don't we show the film to everybody in the company and ask them what they think? We show everybody the film, and everybody in the company is allowed to make comments. including the janitor, including somebody in accounting, including somebody in the IT department. So if you get 50 people saying, I didn't understand what was going on here, the director might want to think about that. We show the film, collect all the notes, give the director feedback, rinse and repeat. Go for another year, do the exact same thing, and rinse and repeat. So the brain trust is really looking at the nitty-gritty details of what we're going to do to change things or make it better. Having all these different slices of genius and diverse points of view, you will always come up with a better solution. Teams of people will outperform individuals all day long.
In 1994, Nelson Mandela became South Africa's first black president.
The best way of expressing that feeling is to change the status quo.
His leadership style, centered on empathy and forgiveness, earned him admiration and inspired many, making him a symbol of moral leadership.
Leaders can leverage lessons we learned from Mandela by remembering something really key, which is speak last. Yes, I can give speeches, give my points of view, but what I can do is invite other perspectives, other voices, show my interest, show my attention, and my intention to perhaps do something with the information I received. But I will only share what I have to share after I've heard from others, because I, as a leader, want to build trust among the people who work with me, because it's going to benefit all of us.
Mandela learned this from someone close to him, his surrogate father, king of the Tembu people. He would watch as the elders gathered, sharing their thoughts in turn. The king listened carefully, hearing every voice before offering his own. It was in those quiet moments when Mandela understood the power of active listening.
There are so many lessons we can learn from President Mandela, but this idea of two-way communication, which doesn't happen enough in organizations across levels, nonetheless across functions, is really one of the ideas that I think we all can take, because he understood that the collective wisdom of the group and the facilitation necessary to get that collective wisdom out was always going to be greater than what one individual in that group could come up with. There is an African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And the idea there is that you need to hear what others are thinking and include them. This is sort of the idea of the collective, because you really want to go far. Anything that's important is going to take time, and you want it to be sustainable.
Being a good listener is an asset in the complex task of negotiation.
Except myself. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about negotiation today. The coupling is a little different. We acknowledge that that third party is a reasonable person. We
Sam
simply
Yan
separate judgment
teaches
of
negotiation
morality
and decision-making essentials.
So in psychology, we have a theory called how we perceive people. There are two dimensions. One is called likability or agreeableness. The other one is called competence. Most students typically focus on demonstrating competence. That's why when they go to a negotiation, when they go to a meeting, a boardroom meeting, they try to exhibit that competence. They will talk a lot more. What's interesting is that research shows us that competence is very, very important, but likability comes first. If people don't like you, competence doesn't really matter. One of the best tools to build likability and build trust is by listening. Many students, they listen with the intent to respond to an argument. I want my students to listen with the intent to understand the argument first and then respond later. Your goal right now is to negotiate a limited product, in this case, flowers. I think it starts with self-awareness, that as a leader, you're going to tell yourself that you're listening, not because you want to respond, but to understand what your followers truly wanted or what your counterpart in the negotiation table really wanted.
Like 50 is like below like my minimum threshold, which I would need. So
like to stick to 100,000. 90 is too much. It's only 100 flowers.
Many times in negotiation, in leadership, we always think about our own interests 100% of the time. Now that's fine. What I'm finding in my work is that if you care about the other person's interest, in most of the time, you can actually better your own self-interest as well, because you enlarge the pie, enlarge your value in front of both of us.
Listening is the key part of the job of an orchestra conductor. It helps a conductor get everyone to play cohesively. Roger Nierenberg runs a course for professionals, teaching them how to listen and how to get the best from their teams by aligning everyone's performance.
Isn't that what you were thinking? I'm trying to hear the dysfunction. I don't hear it. But think of it, why should that surprise you? We all know that's the way the vast majority of organizations in the world work. We all know that.
Both a leader in a business environment and a conductor are responsible not only for the performance, but also the alignment of the organization, meaning the way one person's work is going to relate to another and how their working together is going to be better than either of them individually. Get this microphone to the principal flute, who didn't play a note, but certainly enjoyed that demonstration.
Makes me feel as if I can't do my own thing. It makes me feel like as if everything, I mean, you're micromanaging everything, essentially.
Listening is so vital. First of all, the higher up you go as a leader, the more difficult it is to get the truth about what's going on, because people are going to be telling you what they think you want to say. That was the demonstration. How did it feel to be working with a leader like that?
Very insecure. Yeah, very uncomfortable. You were not communicating to us, but to yourself, inside your mind, and we were left alone.
So the leader is responsible for not only the way he or she listens to the organization, but the way that they listen to each other, which is a vital thing. It's vital for accuracy, it's vital for speed, it's vital for innovation, it's vital for everything that organizations are trying to accomplish.
Jane Horan also trains executives on how to listen.
And so the listening practice I'm going to share with you today, or actually get you to do, is
In
based on a piece of
organizations, she
research by
says,
Nancy
a
Klein.
culture of
And
listening helps develop talent and produce an engaged workforce.
We're going to talk about listening, and it's called the thinking environment. I'm going to get you to experience and practice this. My work is with multinationals, and a lot of times with multinational organizations, I'll either help with talent strategies or building the next generation of leaders or looking at succession plans, because organizations are trying to get the diverse, rich talent up and down across the organization. And the listening practice helps. It's not about getting that person to speak up more. It's actually looking at the broader sense of leadership, but using the listening skills to get people to ask questions. Tell me a little bit more about what you're thinking. And so it shifts the conversation completely, and it gets people to think, oh, it's not just about standing up and speaking out. It's about listening and engaging in those conversations.
So he didn't say anything, but it made me realize that he's following what I'm saying, and therefore I got the feeling that it was valuable. That what I was saying, he was listening, and he valued what I said.
Yeah. Underneath the practices, I'm going to give you the 4 areas. It is paying attention, and it's called generative attention. I may have my own information, but let me stop back and listen to what you have to say. It actually is a listening practice. You kind of have to put it into your mind, even if you're a CEO or you're running a big academic institution, you've got a PhD, doesn't matter. Somebody else can come and give you a piece of information that might trigger your thinking differently. When you feel listened to, I'm more apt to show up that next day at work. I'm more apt to give a little bit more. I really think that you care about me.
It is engaging in those conversations, particularly now with the work, how complex it is, particularly in a multi-generational workforce. If you stop and ask people how they're feeling or what are they doing, it just to me makes sense. I've seen leaders do this. I've seen leaders where they talk to the most senior person in the organization, and then they'll go down to the security guard and ask him how he's doing, and that makes a difference.
When you have teams where ideas and perspectives are welcomed from everyone at the table, we actually see higher innovative ideas. They're more likely to take risks because it's a safe place to do that. And when they do that, where the team leader listens effectively, understands what's happening, then the employees, the team leaders, feel more comfortable expressing themselves, their ideas, their perspectives. There's more camaraderie, there's more collaboration, and there's more innovation.
There is today a growing shortage of individuals willing to assume leadership roles in organizations. A 2023 study revealed a drop in leadership, the biggest in 10 years. Only 40% of company leaders believe their organizations have employees who would make high-quality leaders themselves, similar to levels seen after the 2008 economic crisis. And just 12% of companies feel confident about the strength of their future leaders.
We see a leadership gap in organizations as of today because we live in interesting times. We live in tough times. Serious environmental issues, climate change, social inequality. The stakeholders are much more demanding of the organization and leaders. So leaders, they are operating under a huge amount of pressure. Pressure to make sure that they are consistently generating wealth, they are driving profitable growth, they are driving longevity of the organization, but also making sure that they have a positive impact on environment and social inequalities.
A 2024 report found that only 5% of executives strongly agree that their organizations invest enough in helping people learn new skills to adapt to an evolving work environment.
When I ask executives, would you take this job? If the CEO offered you this job to help lead this transformation and make the organization more innovative, they tell me no. Organizations need to ask themselves, why don't we have enough people who want to lead? Well, have you developed them? Too often we're put in these leadership roles we're not ready for. And there isn't enough focus on investing in the development of individuals early on in their careers to sort of do mini leadership jobs, bigger ones, to do it in a logical way. Instead, you often find yourself having to take a leap as opposed to something that really feels a little bit more, manageable.
At Google Singapore, leaders are vetted from the moment they enter the organization.
I would challenge the notion that we have such a gap here at Google. There's a few reasons for that. I think we really carefully consider leadership attributes as we bring people into the company. We're vetting for that very carefully. We're vetting for attributes like, can people navigate complex scenarios? Can they navigate ambiguous climates? Can they build followership, build networks across the company in order to get things done? And, most importantly, can they self-reflect and can they improve based on the various different failures that they're inevitably going to make? So these sorts of leadership attributes we're vetting for at the very outset, whether we're bringing somebody into an individual contributor role or indeed a management position. There's a lot of security and all that sort of stuff when Pam turns up, so it was a bit different. Like usually, I'm part of the mentor program. I have mentees in Europe, I have mentees in America, and I'm also mentored by a range of different people across the business also. So we offer this network across the company. We obviously have amazing talent within our organisation distributed across the entire world, and there's so much to learn from various different people, and just opening up access to those folks is really impactful. We also offer external coaching as well, and that can be part of those personal development plans.
So as leaders develop for senior positions, having somebody who's been there, done that, guiding and advising them is extremely critical. And that's the role of a typical mentor. Now, mentor is somebody senior in the organization who has understanding of the work that the mentee does, is an expert in his or her area, and therefore professional guidance that he or she gives to the mentee is critical.
Amgen Singapore has its own approach to grooming leaders. They're a biotechnology company that develops innovative therapies to treat serious illnesses.
Oftentimes, it's difficult for us to get leaders ready at the time that we need people to step up into leadership roles. In the early parts of the career, there's a lot of focus done on building technical skills. And as you get into middle management and above, you need to start leveraging a different muscle, which is more people management leadership. And if there has not been enough training and effort put into building that muscle, suddenly that then becomes a challenge.
Amgen Singapore offers the Emerging Talent Rotational Program, or ETRP, designed to give employees the opportunity to explore various roles across departments, helping them discover their niche.
Here you end up going through rotations. Here you continue in your existing role, right? So there is about 7 months the ETRP program. Builds their capabilities, gives them the good idea of the kind of work that's being done in different functions, helps them also kind of get a sense of where their interests lie. So as they are coming towards the end of the ETRP rotations, the third rotation, and we need to identify a landing role, we can then start having a discussion on what was of interest to them, what would they like to do after they finish the ETRP program. Then we look at business needs, and then we kind of find a landing role within the business. And the landing role is usually any role that we have in our business, and then we kind of map their interests, their capabilities, and what we require from a business point of view, and then we identify roles for them. We strongly encourage our managers to operate with what we call people-centered leadership in a very compassionate manner. In terms of our leadership attributes, we also look at adapting, because the external world is so constantly changing. We will need to be very comfortable in doing something, learning from it, pivoting as needed. As leaders, we will also need to learn how to manage our employees differently, because our employee population is also changing. Their needs as they come to the workplace are very different from how the earlier workforce generations have, been in the workplace.
Youngsters these days, their work ethics are very different, their work values are very different. They don't look at the good old days of working hard, getting promoted, get to the next level. It's not necessarily what they strive for. They're more into purpose, value in what they do, the impact they make to themselves and also the society at large.
They need that alignment between their personal passions and talents and what the organization's trying to get to do. So they're looking for that alignment between what we refer to as their slice of genius, their talents and their passions, and what that organization's purpose is. They want the work to be meaningful. They also expect, in terms of the psychological contract, that they will be developed. They want to learn. So if they feel that, you can pay them a lot of money, but if they don't think they're learning what they want to learn or need to learn, they're going to move on.
The young people can be a leader in their own way in the small little project team. So I think organization also has to shift their thinking. After 3 years on the job, you get promoted to the next level. Then you manage a team. I think that has totally changed in the new world. And because of the deficit as a gap that you talk about with youngsters stepping out and be willing to take that role, you also have to change how the company should be run.
The world is shifting, industries evolving with tech, demographics in flux, the demands of work constantly changing. And through this all, strong leadership is still elusive. The answer might not be in finding more leaders at the top, but in empowering people at every level to rise to the challenge, to build a future where everyone has a voice and a role to play.